Some things that are inside the cell must get out. Think about the most delicious meal you ever ate. That's a hard one for me to decide, but I'll go with a deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's in Chicago, followed by a tiki turtle sundae from the St. Louis Custard Factory. Did your mouth just water? Your brain prepared your mouth to eat because you were thinking about delicious food. The cells in your brain had to send a signal to the cells in your mouth. The cells in your mouth then receive that signal and in response release juices full of digestive enzymes. When you don't taste any food in your mouth will stop watering. So both your brain cells and your mouth cells are sending and receiving signals that must move into and out of a cell. The boundary that separates the cell from what's outside of the cell controls what moves in and out of the cell. The cell membrane is in charge of determining what's able to come into the cell and what's not. Another way to say that is that the cell membrane is selectively permeable. Permeable means able to get through, so it only lets certain things through. The cell membrane also provides some support and structure for the cell, giving it its shape. On the right is a picture of what a typical cell membrane looks like. The membrane is mostly made up of a lipid bilayer, or a double layer of lipid molecules. Lipids don't dissolve in water, which is what most of your body is made from. This is important so that the cell membrane doesn't dissolve into its surroundings. You can see from the picture that lipids have two parts. There's the orange head and the black tail. The orange heads are attracted to water, so they line up so the heads are facing the water on the outside. And the second layer forms so that the heads are lined up facing the watery inside part of the cell. The tails coming from the heads repel water, which keeps the water on the outside separate from the watery components on the inside. Some substances can pass directly through the cell membrane, but other substances may be too large, or maybe have a charge, like ions. If these substances are to move through the cell membrane, they need a special protein channel. Specific protein channels allow specific molecules to move in and out. One protein channel that will let in a molecule signals to the cell, there's food around, start making enzymes that will break down the food. While another protein will let in the molecule that signals, the food is gone, shut down enzyme production. Finally, the molecules that do the signaling need to know where to go. Carbohydrates attached to proteins on the outside of the cell act like name tags that alert things on the outside of the cell, I'm a mouth cell, or I'm a brain cell, so that signals go to the appropriate places. This model of the cell membrane is called the fluid mosaic model. Mosaic is a piece of artwork made with many different tiny parts that all form one picture, just like all of the parts of the cell membrane work together to regulate what goes in and out of the cell. The word fluid suggests smooth movement, and the proteins are able to move around within the lipid bilayer. All cells, from the smallest bacteria to the largest egg cell, have a cell membrane because moving things in and out is essential for the function of a cell. However, only some cells contain a cell wall. All plants contain a cell wall, but there are some other types of cells that have a cell wall also. Algae, fungus, and many single-celled prokaryotes also have a cell wall. Prokaryotes are cells that don't have a nucleus, but they do have DNA, which just floats around in the cytoplasm. Bacteria are examples of prokaryotes. The cell wall is located outside of the cell membrane and is much thicker and more rigid than a cell membrane. Plants don't have skeletons to hold them up like our skeletons hold us up. It's the water pushing against the cell walls that makes them stand upright. You can even feel how tough and strong the stem of a wilting plant is because of the of its cells. The cell wall has holes that allow some molecules to move in and out of the cell wall. The difference between these pores, called plasmodesmata, and proteins in the cell membrane is that plasmodesmata are not specific for molecules they let through. They're just holes that let anything that will physically fit through them. The cell wall is made up of proteins and a carbohydrate called cellulose. Cellulose is what makes up plant products that we use every day, like the fibers in our clothes, the paper we write on, and wooden furniture. Both inside and outside a cell are watery solutions. Dissolved in the water are things like sugar, ions, salts, carbon dioxide, oxygen, and other small molecules. Suspended in this solution are larger substances, like cell organelles. The concentration is a measure of how many solutes are dissolved in a solution. The more concentrated a solution is, the more grams of solute it contains in every liter of that solution. For example, a very concentrated and probably delicious Kool-Aid solution might have 20 grams of sugar in each liter of water, or 20 grams per liter. A less concentrated Kool-Aid would have only 5 grams of sugar per liter of water, or 5 grams per liter. The concentration of solutes is important inside and outside the cell because it determines how substances will naturally move across the cell membrane. The movement of substances across the membrane is called diffusion. I'll show you an animation in just a minute where things tend to move from where they're highly concentrated to where they're less concentrated. So take a look at the picture that you see on the right. The purple dots are more concentrated on the left side of the picture and less concentrated on the right side of the picture. So they'll tend to move from the left side to the right side. Another way to say this is that they move with the concentration gradient. Imagine that a very delicious cake was being baked in your kitchen. The smell is going to start off in the kitchen where the cake is, but it won't take long before those cake smells make it to your bedroom. They've moved from where they were highly concentrated to where they were less concentrated. And they'll continue to do this until they're spread out evenly throughout your whole house. This state of being spread evenly throughout a solution is called equilibrium. When the animation on the right stops, there's the same number of purple dots on each side of the semi-permeable membrane in the center of the picture. After a while, you stop smelling the freshly baked cake because those smelly cake particles have spread evenly over a very large area, so there isn't enough getting into your nose for you to detect the smell. You're hungry now, aren't you?